Hi guys, welcome to Daddy and The Don. Today we're going to be looking at the Daddy and The Don derby. It's the Don's Arsenal versus my Palace. So I'm going to discuss with G now how this game's going to play out. So Graham, concentrating on Arsenal first. So obviously you had a terrible first 3 games, decent second 3 games, and then you've just had a draw with Brighton before the international break. So where do you think you stand now as a team for the season? Do you think you're heading in the right direction, or do you think the wheels could fall off again when you play sort of like a better opponent? Where do you think you stand as it is now?
Yeah, it's better than it was the last international break. We can say that. We've already touched on Norwich and Burnley performances in the previous video when we previewed Tottenham and Brighton. So the Tottenham game's a fantastic result, and it put us in a much better position. Of course it did. It was a great performance against a good team. Let's be realistic. We can say what we want, but Tottenham is still a good team. Very flat against Brighton, but, it wasn't a loss. It was a clean sheet. Take the positive. And I'm looking into this season now with a bit more optimism. Still a long way to go, so let's hope we continue to go up on the up. But we have to see it as Arsenal after all.
So obviously this game comes after an international break. Do you think that will favour either of the teams? Do you think either team needed this break to sort of recoup and recover? Or do you think it's not going to make a difference to either team?
International break, to me, the only thing that really can affect the team after the international break is the injuries. So Arsenal's form has got better, and I think the confidence will be there regardless of a break or not. Obviously, when players get injured, that's when teams struggle. As of now, I'm not aware of any injuries, so Arsenal should go into this game feeling confident and expecting to win. We should win regardless if there is a national break or not. We're at home, we are the better side, no disrespect to Palace. So, yeah, this doesn't really make too much of a difference as long as not any players have come back injured.
So this is normally a question you ask, mate, but I'm going to jump in there first this time. So you always ask about the limp dick with Palace. Do you think it's fully operational now, or do you think there's still a little bit of dysfunction in there? But all joking aside, G, what threat, if any, do you expect to see from Crystal Palace on Monday night, mate?
It's not much of a limp dick now. It's only occasionally it doesn't come out to play. It must have something to help it now. So let's hope that that's not available for this game. All jokes aside, I think Michael Olise is a must start this game. I'm continuing to scratch my head on why AU continues to start over him. AU's old and out past it. He's not a Premier League player. Olise is the future. To me, him and Saha are the biggest threats. I think he should start Edouard up front. I think he's better than Benteke and he's younger. So to me, that should be the front three. In the midfield, MacArthur for me and Serbian boy, I can't ever say his name. So Luka, Mozorovic, whatever his name is. To me, they come out, you bring Koyata and you bring Will Hughes to play with Gallagher. And if you play that team, you're going to cause us problems. Doesn't mean you'll win, but you can cause problems. You cause problems against Liverpool. So let's hope the limp dick is still there. But if you play the team I said, then you probably are going to get a goal and you get a few bonus.
So you've got one of your ex-legendary players returning as a manager this time, for the first time in the Premier League. So what have you made to his start to managerial life in the Premier League? And do you think he's going to be desperate to get one up on his ex-employer?
Yeah, Patrick's a legend. In my view, he's the best centre mid in Premier League history. I think all the other contenders that get mentioned on a weekly, daily, monthly basis all had a weakness. Vieira's for me could do everything, but that's a different day to talk about that. Regarding him as a manager, he's doing well so far. He's a legend for Arsenal, but we're going to want to win. Doesn't matter who manages the other team, of course. I think he'll do well for Palace. I think he's impressed me, but he still doesn't know his first team. I think if he plays that team that I suggested, I think that's their strongest team on paper. Personally, I think it's got a lot of youth in there. I'm always a fan of youth, and I think he's looking to bring that in. The centre-back partnership is young and very impressive, and I like the fact that he continues to stick with it. Pat will do well. Once he gets Eze back, they're going to look even stronger. They will cause team problems. Like I said, Liverpool game, they could have won that if they got a good early goal, and I think they'll do that against us. Don't think they'll win this game, but we'll go into that in the next few questions.
Obviously, sticking with managers, obviously going back to Arsene Wenger, obviously there was a lot of Wenger out banners and disdain around his last couple of seasons. So nothing's really happened since then. Obviously, you won one FA Cup, but not really done too much in the league. So, do you think that was still the right call? Do you think it should have been Wenger in? Where do you lie on the change of managers and how it's gone post Arsene Wenger, mate?
Arsene Wenger. Okay, listen, I've always been a big fan of Arsene Wenger. I think he's one of the best managers of all time. But at the time when he left, I was very vocally saying that he needed to leave. People were coming to me saying, "Oh yeah, but he gets you top four every year." That doesn't fit it. When a team win the league 3 times in 6 years like we did, and then go 14 years without it, I'm sorry, that means you're not getting anywhere nearer. People go, he's good financially. Fans who win the league want to win it again. That's how it operates. Liverpool went years without winning the league, and now they're one of the best teams in the world again. Now, are Arsenal going to do it with Arteta? I don't know. Did Wenger leave? Was Wenger leaving good for the club? I believe it was. But I never said it would have been plain sailing after. And there might be a few more years to come. Until we get the right manager, we might struggle and not be a top 4 team. But Wenger would not have made us any better than what we are now. Best case scenario, we would have finished 4th. Even though the last 2 seasons we didn't, I don't see how he would have done any different. I don't think he would have spent money because I do believe he was tight. So there you go. Wenger out, to me, was still the right decision.
How do you think this game's going to be approached? Do you think there'll be any changes from Arsenal? And in terms of approaching the game, do you think they'll be trying to go out on the front foot and dominate this game as the favourites and at home? Or do you think it will depend on how Crystal Palace set up?
Yeah, 2 possible teams. Unchanged against Brighton, or Pepe comes in for Lokongu, change of formation 4-1-4-1 with Pepe going onto the wing and Partey playing on his own with Odegaard in, Smith around front. Back 4 won't change unless there's injuries, of course. Moving on to the way we play, I think we're going to try and get you early. I think we'll play fast, attacking football, but at the same time we'll try and keep possession if you play a negative way, which I expect you to play. I don't see any goals in the first half an hour, but I do see you going into the game looking for the counter-attack the longer it goes. If we get that goal in the first half, then that might change the way you play. But let's just see. Anything can happen in the Premier League. I expect a few goals, but again, I expect probably a goalless first half, but a few in the second half, and hopefully both for us.
And are there any key battles that will decide this fixture, or any players that need to be sort of contained to ensure you get the victory?
Yeah, there's always battles throughout the game. To me, Partey needs to dominate the midfield, and I think he will, with the help of maybe Odegaard slotting in every now and again. That's if they play that formation, which I think they will, the 4-1-4-1. But a few other key battles. I think Joe Ward for you up against either Smith Rowe or Saka. I think that's an area where we can exploit you. He's not very good. He's not a Premier League right back, and he's somewhere we need to, target. I like Theo Mitchell, but again, I think we'll look to target him as well. He's still learning. He looks decent, but again, I think we'll look at him and go, if we can put a bit of pace, if Pepe plays, then he'll look to stretch him. Regarding your key battle, I think Saha's the one who makes it happen for you, of course. He's up against an impressive-looking Japanese lad called Thomas Sayu. Didn't know much about him, but he looks like a proper defender, and I think Saha's going to have his game on to beat him. Let's see what the boy's made of. For me, they're the key battles for the game. It'd be interesting to see who wins each of them battles, personally.
And obviously, finally, G, what's your score prediction for the game on Monday night, mate?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Arsenal win. I can't see anything else in this game. I do see you scoring, but I think we'll just be too strong in the end. I'm going to say 3-1 Arsenal. Okay, Phil, so you've asked me questions. Now I'm going to ask you questions on the Palace side of it. A few things I want to get to before we talk Palace, all things Palace for this upcoming game against Arsenal. First off, very briefly, your thoughts on the previous game against Leicester, 2-2 draw. Was you happy with the result, and was it a fair result at the end? Or was you lucky to get away with a point?
Yeah, so reflecting on the Leicester game, to be honest with you, like a draw, I think we did deserve a draw out of the game, but I can see the argument that we potentially were lucky to get it given the circumstances and the silly goals we conceded in the first half. So I think on the whole it was worthy of a point, but we did probably get away with it a little bit as well. But played really well, just silly defending at times really, but all in all, yeah, a point was fair.
Okay, so a few things I want to get to. First off, listen to this recording from one of our pundits, Jay, on his opinion about Crystal Palace. Once you hear it, tell me what you think about it and are you bothered by it.
Oh, are you going to be like us and float around mid-table? Palace are shit, Phil. Absolute dog shit.
Yeah, my mate Jay. Look, at the end of the day, I know why he's saying these things, because obviously at the start of the season I predicted Brentford would go down. And just to set the record straight, it wasn't because I think they're rubbish. It's just the pure fact that promoted teams, especially playoff champions, do tend to go down more often than not. So that's why I predicted them there. Obviously, they've started really well, and I've been impressed with them, and I wish them all the best and hope they do sort of stay up and do well. Obviously, in terms of the comments, I think deep down, Jay, he won't admit it on here, but he'd admit to himself that if Brentford replicated Palace for the next 8 years, stayed in the Premiership, good turnover of money, build themselves, he'd accept that all day long. And it doesn't bother me, and like the main reason it doesn't really bother me is because as much as we have the banter off air and on here, we all know deep down Jay is a secret Palace fan. He just won't admit it to anyone.
Okay, and finally, again, very briefly, we've heard nothing from your mate, MH. Do you think he realised his Billy bullshitting claims were wrong? Or do you expect him to pop up and pipe up again at some point? And why did you need to address him? Is it something that really got to you? The fact that his claims were bullshit? Or is it because he likes battleships?
Yeah, so good old MH. To be honest with you, I was just a bit surprised by his comments, really. The absurdity of it and just the random attack. Just came on to our comments, randomly attacked me and the Palace fans, and then buggered off again. Don't expect to see him on there again, to be honest with you, mate. Doubt he'd even read or watch any of these now. Just a random knobhead, really. But in terms of battleships, no problem with battleships, mate. If he wants to play them, that's up to him and anyone else who enjoys battleships.
So on Arsenal, what threat do we bring? Do you think you can possibly get 3 points for us? I know you're very vocal about us. Is this the worst Arsenal team you've seen in 20 years? Or is that another exaggeration?
So look, no matter how bad Arsenal have played or are playing or where they are at the moment, they're still Arsenal. They're still a big club. They've still got some good players, and they still pose a threat every time you play them. I know recently, in the last sort of 3 years, we've tended to get a positive result out of the games. Obviously, we got beat 3-1 at the end of last season. But yeah, I think you have got some good players. To say you're the worst Arsenal team for 20 years, it might be an exaggeration, but I don't think there'd be a massive argument from it. But again, I think you've got good players. They're just it's not clicking for some reason. They're not all firing on all cylinders. So there's potential there, but it's just you're not seeing the results. So I think obviously you've got a lot of talented young players all over the park that can cause a threat. So you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Saka. Obviously, we know Aubameyang and Lacazette, if they turn up, what they can do. But yeah, I think we've just got to be cautious, because you could wake up at any time and give us a hiding.
So how do you expect Palace to play? Do you expect it to be a Braxton Wolves job, a game where you try and compete, or do you think it could be a game where you try and make it open, or is it a game where you try and counter? What sort of football is Pat going to play here against us?
Obviously, from what I've seen of Patrick so far, I think in his mind he does want to come and he wants to play football, but then there is an air of realism about it as well. So a bit like the Tottenham game, first 20 minutes we just sat there and tried to feel each other out, and then we realised there was no threat, so he started playing football. I think it'd be similar in this game. He'll probably sit back and be cautious, wait and see how you start, and then sort of change it based on your tactics. So if you're all over us, he will lean on the counter-attack. If you're sitting back and waiting to see what we'll do, he might go a bit more attacking and try to take it to you. But I think the way to get at Arsenal lately, they are a bit of a fragile team. obviously Thomas Partey is probably like the only one there that I'd say, obviously Xhaka, but he doesn't play all the time, where you've got someone that sort of like a true hard man that can put his foot in. I think the rest of the team can be bullied, and I think that's sort of like what happened in the Brighton game. They sort of controlled the game, so to speak. So I think we do need to make it physical, but we need to be sensible with it as well at the same time.
So before I ask your score prediction, thoughts on how the game's going to go, where will it be won and where will it be lost? Can you win it and will you win it?
I can see it being quite cagey, especially in the first half. Probably from our side, there'd be some tough tackling, so it could get a bit feisty. But I think into the second half, depending how the teams tire and fatigue, it'll open up a little bit. So we obviously have to just keep our guard on and try and catch you on the counter. But yeah, I think that'll be sort of the cat and mouse sort of game. You'll be trying to score, we'll be trying to contain, tackle and counter. So just be who does their job the best as to how that result goes. If you score early, it could change the whole game. If it's 0-0 for a long time, then I can see the game getting stretched in the second half. But it'll all depend on when that first goal does come.
Hey Phil, what do you think the score will be?
So yeah, as for score prediction, I'm going to go for 2-2 on this one, G. I think you'll go ahead early, we'll get one back. You'll go ahead again in the second half and we'll get one back towards the end. So I'm going to go for 2-2 in this one, mate.